I mean, I think she was referring to some of the stuff about 9/11 and some of the deeper, darker, more sinister
Yeah.
control mechanisms and Big Brother stuff that's about at the moment. Which you can't just bury your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist. It's out there. It's happening every day. I see it myself.
Yeah.
Can't ignore it. But some people, unfortunately, and I'm not knocking them, but it's everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But they sort of want to bury their head in the sand and pretend it doesn't happen. They're more interested in opening and closing the chakras than they are about the controls that are on a daily basis interfering with our freedom.
Mm.
Just that's my view anyway.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Like, I totally concur with what you were saying there. I mean, what kind of people? What sort of questions are people asking when they come to you? Do you do group sessions quite often where people come along and ask questions?
Yeah, I mean, when we do public demonstrations, we can have any amount of people from sort of 10 to 90 people. It just completely depends on the area that we're working in. And what we try and do, I mean, obviously we do quite a few demonstrations in spiritualist churches, mainly because there's a platform there and already an understanding perhaps. But more recently, we've been trying to take the work outside of the spiritualist movement, if you like, to try and get to as many people as possible. I mean, as you might be aware, we've published about 5 of our own books now of transcripts, and they are recorded and transcribed verbatim so that we don't sort of miss anything out. And these are questions from people, very ordinary people from all walks of life, who come along. I mean, there are sort of questions that come up quite regularly, such as, is there life on other planets, or about pets in the spirit world, or those sort of things. But there really is such a vast variety of questions that come up, and what we'd like to do is to give people the opportunity, perhaps through the books, who wouldn't necessarily want to go to a public demonstration, the opportunity to read the guide's comments and advice, and maybe, as has happened before, people have read the books and then decided they'd actually quite like to come and experience White Feather for themselves. And that's really the gathering that we're doing next year in the Cotswolds is actually trying to do that, to celebrate trance mediumship in its widest sense, so that to make it plain, because what we like to try and do is not about us. When we go out and work, it really isn't about us. We're not interested in building our part as humans, if you like. What we really are championing is the philosophy that comes through from spirit. And I can assure you that neither of us could actually come out with the sort of teachings that White Feather does. So we hope to take these questions to anybody who's a seeker, really.
Is there like an underlying message or thread that White Feather's trying to give across in his messages?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, he always speaks about the truth in its many, many contexts, really, and always the fact that the truth lies within, and the fact that, it's available to everyone. I mean, everyone, in a sense, is a medium. Everyone, because we're all parts of God or the Great Spirit or whatever label, infinite consciousness, whatever you want to call it, then we've all got access to that higher nature, that higher power. And one thing I will say about White Feather is that when you experience White Feather, he's very empowering. He's very empowering. People often come up to us afterwards, having been within the energies and the presence of White Feather, to say how inspired they are. And he really is inspiring, and it's all about empowering people.
Yeah.
To uncover and develop their own abilities, really. And I think this is a very, very key point, actually, Ian, because it sort of almost leads on to another sort of side issue of ours where we mentioned earlier about mediumship becoming more available to people, but it's kind of a concern of ours, the way that mediumship has developed into sort of a cult celebrity status, if you know what I mean, with the birth of the celebrity medium and all that goes with it. And it sort of almost separates mediums from the general public, and so many are put on pedestals. And one thing that White Feather will always try to do, he's a great leveler, and he will always say to people, look, you are every bit as important as I am. I'm not better or greater or more wonderful or any of those things than you are. And he treats everyone with the same respect and the same humility. And that's a very empowering thing and a very important message that always underpins everything that he says.
That's important, isn't it? The empowerment thing, isn't it? To encourage people to, be responsible and accountable, and to, to try and be teachers in their own right, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things he often says actually is we're all teachers and we're all pupils.
Yeah.
We all learn from each other. We all teach each other, and I think it would do well for one or two people, mentioning no names, to sort of take that on board, really.
Yeah.
We also actually, it sounds quite severe, all this, and quite sort of as if you wouldn't perhaps have an enjoyable evening at all if you came to one of our demonstrations. but I have to say that the guide has got a wonderful sense of humour, and he gets away with blue murder the way he says things, but in a very polite way, using humour, which again, I think that's quite a lesson for all of us, really, that he's not an angry person. He doesn't put people down, but he has a way of saying things in a humorous way that you couldn't write it, really.
Yeah, he's got a very dry sense of humour, Ian, very, very dry. And funny enough, I'm glad Amanda's raised that point, because humour is an important part of mediumship, an important part of spiritual communication. And people think that mediums are all about talking to dead people, and you see people crying, and when they've contacted a loved one, and all the emotional stuff with it. But they don't realise always the tremendous humour and the fun part of mediumship. And those in the spirit world, they are, by and large, apart from one or two people, are happy, and they want to convey that happiness and humour. And White Feather, as I say, has got a very dry sense of humour, and he will often tease somebody in a very loving, very nice way, just to raise the energies and get a laugh, because laughter is itself a very powerful healer and a very powerful energy, and spirit work on energy. And when the energies are lifted, then the whole evening just flows,
Yeah, no, I can understand that, yeah. So what kind of picture does White Feather paint of the spirit world? Can you give me an idea of how he would describe it? Some people say he's got many different planes, halls of learning, all that kind of stuff.
He does talk of halls of learning, and he certainly talks about immense libraries and wonderful music halls. He talks of colours that you couldn't even imagine on the earth plane. And he actually paints a wonderful picture. You do wonder sometimes whether you'd be better off back then.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
but having said that, and actually I've made a slip up there, because he doesn't speak of it going back. What he says is we are actually within the spirit world as we speak.
Never left.
It isn't somewhere we go. It is actually, as radio waves, they coexist, and all we do when we make these spirit communications is alter the frequency to the point where our two worlds can meet, and that in itself is a leveler, because it isn't some high place that we are all aspiring to be better than we are. But in actual fact, there is no judgment. The only judgment there is what we put on ourselves. And whereas some school of thought in religious terms may be that there is a judgment day, and we will look at somebody else will point the finger and tell us where we've all gone wrong.